Lovers of lore, thank you for joining me for the third installment of the Bloomburrow story. So this part of the story starts out with Helga, Hugs, Mabel, Zoraline, Gev, and Phineas departing Goodhill, heading for Pondside, using a map that was provided by Zoraline. Helga is apprehensive about her home. Will it have been destroyed? Phineas asked Helga on the journey about her life. She had grown up near Three Tree City, but her family's pond had dried up, so she moved with her grandparents to Pondside, leaving the rest of her family living in Willow. She was also asked about her magical skills. She had learned some cantrips, but couldn't do stronger magic. She had been afraid of losing her mind, like some weavers did when they tampered with forces beyond their control. Besides, she had been so inept that King Glarb sent her away. The others spoke of their lives as well. Phineas the Rabbit Folk Archer had lived a boring life in Goodhill. This was his first adventure. He wanted a story to tell his future kids. Hugs the Badger and Gev the Lizard had been part of the striped rapscallions. They had fought a terrifying bone monster summoned by the squirrels of the Calamity Graveyard. Gev breathed fire at it, while Hugs smashed it from behind, tearing it in half. Mabel leaned in to tell Helga not to buy Gev's tall tales. They reached Pondside after half a day's travel. The village was gone. Buildings shattered. Nobody remained. Cart tracks led southward towards Haymeadow. Gev motioned to the others. He had spied squirrel folk down by the water, scouring the rubble. Helga indicated that they were definitely not residents of Pondside. As the party grew closer to the squirrels, they could overhear their conversation. Apparently, this was not the first place leveled by the night owl. "There's nothing here," one lamented. "Why is Cruel Claw having us do this?" One of the squirrels tossed a child's painting into the nearby water while the other laughed. Helga was incensed. She yelled at them. "How dare you?" "Beat it, bumpkin," was the response she got. Mabel and Gev readied their weapons as the squirrels sized them up and then cast a necromantic incantation. Skeletal beings made of bones and leaves appeared all around the heroes of Goodhill. Zoraline the Bat had been sleeping hanging from Hug's back and awoke from the commotion. A ratfolk skeleton jumped at Mabel, who already had her blade out and an iron sap shield readied. Infused with Cragflame's magic, Mabel easily dodged and decapitated the skeleton. The magic in its eyes faded out. Phineas shot a birdfolk skeleton with an arrow through the eye, but it stayed aloft. Gev knocked a mousefolk skeleton over with his tail and brought both of his fire maces down on the skull of another one, crushing it entirely. Hugs grabbed an otterfolk and tore the skeleton in half above his head. He dashed its top half into the ground and whipped the other into the water. Zoraline flew at one of the necromancers. A brief touch from her, and the squirrel's magic was drawn away into Zoraline, who then flew to a group of skeletons and unleashed her stolen magic. The skeletons fell as one, inanimate. More birdfolk skeletons appeared, defying gravity and natural law. They soared around, attacking. Phineas changed tactics and used an arrow that had a sack tip. Upon firing it, he let out a rapid-fire tap with his foot. Vines sprouted from the arrow's tip and ensnared a bird skeleton. It plummeted to the earth, where Hugs dispatched it with a savage stomp of his foot. Mabel used Cragflame to great effect, cutting down multiple skeletons, but she was too short to reach the birds. That's when Helga realized she could be of help. She drew up water into a floating ball and broke it apart into drops of individual water that she formed into floating platforms. Mabel wasted no time ascending the magic water steps. Helga got distracted by her fear of the skeletons, and her concentration wavered. The water steps fell, but Mabel's reflexes saved her. She leapt off just in time to spear a bird with her blade and rode it down to the ground, severing its spine as she landed. Cragflame cut bone like a hot knife cuts butter. Suddenly the battle was over. The necromancers had cut and run. Gev grumbled about how hard it would be to get the bone fragments out of Hug's boots. "I told you not to do that anymore," he grumped at Hugs. Helga apologized for her lapsed spell, but Mabel waved it away. Now they had a choice to make: find and help the villagers, or chase the necromancers to learn more about the night owl's attacks. It might be dangerous to follow them. Gev sneered at the danger. The striped rapscallions have no fear of boot wreckers. Ultimately, the choice was left with Helga, since it was her village. She made the choice to follow the squirrels. The villagers were probably safe at Haymeadow. Zoraline mapped out a course, and then returned to slumber on Hug's huge back. Phineas gathered what arrows were salvageable, while Gev tended to Hug's boots. Helga went off to see her home. The place was cut in half, but she was able to find some clean clothes and food. A part of her felt she might never see this place again, so she took her grandfather's wand and hat, as well as one of her grandmother's copper orbs. The party regathered and headed northward until nightfall, all friendly chats from earlier forgotten. Zoraline flew off in the night to bring word of what had happened back to Goodhill. She returned before daybreak, and the party set off again, encountering friendly otterfolk who gave them a ride in their fishing boats. Gev was decidedly seasick and lost his breakfast over the side. In the distance, Three Tree City loomed. Made up of an oak, sycamore, and willow tree, the city had many types of building, some made of clay, some wood, even some made of fungus. They landed at the docks. It was chaotic. So many different people going about their days. Phineas struggled with the sheer mass of people. This was nothing like Goodhill. Zev stood on Hug's shoulder to get a proper view. Helga had family here, but no time for a visit. Mabel and Phineas started to ask locals about the necromancers and Cruel Claw, but had no luck. They did, however, find a very oddly dressed otterfolk with no awareness of his own tale. The otter was angrily demanding answers from the locals, but getting nowhere. He was looking for someone he couldn't properly describe. No one knew an animal by the name of Jace, or what tattoos were. This strange otter almost walked right into Helga. Helga had been listening to the description the otter had given and realized she had a sketch from one of her visions that matched what he said. She showed the otter her drawing, and he grabbed her. "Where is Beleren?" Mabel warned him away. "Let her go, or lose that arm." Lightning crackled in the otter's eyes, but he let Helga go. He introduced himself as Ral. Helga's sketch was Jace, to be sure. He was a fox. Helga told him that Jace didn't travel alone. There was a black and green lizard folk with him, and some other small creature Helga couldn't make out. Mabel went to end the conversation. They were here for Cruel Claw, not some odd otter. But Ral said, "I need answers," and she has them. He pointed at Helga while he said it. Helga was surprised to find someone actually believed her visions. Just then, alarm sounded. The river swelled, flowing up over the docks. Gev yelled, "Something's coming!" A giant silver fish with magical markings emerged from an enormous wave. Helga recognized the calamity beast. She screamed in fear, "The Floodgar!" A whip of water lashed out from the wave, slamming animals into the water. Ral turned and raised a crackling hand, but Mabel barred his way. "You'll fry the animals in the water." Another water whip slammed Mabel and Ral into Hugs, who withstood the force. But then the wave came crashing down on all of them. They were swept into the water. Mabel asked Ral to bend the currents, but he couldn't. Mabel was surprised to find a magic-using otter who couldn't manage current magic. They were swept out into a tributary in the ice-cold water. Fortunately, the river narrowed and the waters calmed. Hugs had used his great strength to keep them all together through the entire ordeal, but he collapsed in exhaustion when they reached the shore. They had arrived in a marshy cave. They had barely taken in their surroundings when they were confronted by a pack of rat folk wielding daggers. One of them hissed, "You leave or you die." And this ends the third installment of the Bloomburrow story. I hope that you enjoyed it. If you like what's going on this channel, you can support it by joining the channel membership or the Patreon. A big shout out to the channel's members and patrons. Thank you very much for supporting what I do here. I will see you all for the next installment of the story. And in the meantime, go enjoy some other magic lore on this channel. Because at the end of the day, lore is life.